All right, we're going to take you through the McGill Big Three, or the Big Three exercises, which is going to be working core stability. We've got Taylor here who's going to be helping to demonstrate the exercises, and we're just going to run through the correct way to do them and show you the various variations of them as well. So we'll start with the first one, which is the modified curl up. So Taylor, if you just get it down onto the floor. Now with these variations, obviously everyone's individualized, but we're going to show you the beginner version and the more advanced version as well. Okay, so lying nice and flat on the floor, can be on a bench top or something like that, whatever you prefer. But what we're going to start off is one leg down. So she's going to place one leg down. Now it doesn't matter which leg. Okay, so any leg is good, and we just want one up because that's going to help to keep the pelvis nice and neutral. Then hands, we're going to come underneath the small of your back, not on the spine itself, but just to the side. And then these are more like pressure gauges. So we're going to use them to feel that when Taylor does a brace, which we'll run through in a second, that she's feeling that pressure. If you're doing the exercise and you start to feel the pressure coming off those fingers, then you know that you're probably arching your back and not doing it correctly. Okay, so starting on her back like that, and then she's going to be doing a core brace, which we've run through before. So if you haven't checked out already, go check out other videos how to do that. She's going to be bracing her core. Perfect. Okay, so this is a setup position here. So we're going to do brace core, and then we're going to focus on lifting your shoulders and your head just about 2 centimeters off. Or I like to say, if I can only just slide my hands underneath her shoulder blades, that's all we're looking for. Okay, so Taylor, when you're ready, you're going to be bracing your core and then lifting up shoulders and head. Good. See how Taylor's keeping her head nice and neutral there? We don't want to flex the head too much. Keeping in this position and back down. Good. 5 seconds just like that. Go through one more time for me, Taylor. Big breath and brace, lifting up. Good. Hold there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and controlling back down. Okay, so that's the modified curl up. Now, if you want to make it a little bit harder, what you can do is take your one hand and you're going to straighten it out. So Taylor, take your right hand here and put it behind you. Okay, so we're going to go through here. Same thing. Big breath and brace, lifting up, holding there. 4, 3, 2, 1. Control back down. Good. So quite a tough variation from there. Okay, so that's the McGill modified curl up. Now let's go into the side bridge or side plank. I'm going to get you roll onto your side. Good. Put in front here. Okay, so we'll start off with the first version, which I actually prefer myself, but this is on the knees. So her knees are slightly bent up, and her hands, we're going to place her opposite hand across on her shoulder here. Okay, and the forearm and elbow are nicely underneath the shoulder itself. This is the setup position. Now, when we're doing this movement, it's important to understand that we're trying to get the hips, the ball and socket joints to create the movement and keep the spine nice and stable. So what Taylor's going to do is brace her core, and then she's going to hinge her hips forward to lift her up as she's going through. Okay, so big breath and brace, and then hinging forward, driving those hips through. Perfect. And then she's in a nice line from shoulders, hips to knees. Good, and coming back down to the reverse, come back down. So we see how that movement all takes place from the hips. Okay, so that's an important part from there. So we're going to go through one more time. Big breath and brace, extend those hips forward. And then here, what we want to focus on is that bottom leg driving down into the floor. So really feel like you're pushing that bottom knee down into the floor, and that's going to help get those glutes involved. All right, so now for the progress version of this one, we're going to go fully onto the legs. So it's going to be the same thing. You're going to start on the side bridge with the knees bent. Then once you're up in that knees bent position, top leg goes out, bottom leg straightens, and we hold from there. So that's the full side plank. Okay, so when Taylor's ready, big breath and brace, extending forward from those hips. Good, top leg goes out, other one straightens, and we're holding there. Good. And then to come back down, do the reverse, so bend the bottom knee. Good, bend the top one, and then come back down from the hips. Perfect. Good. So that's the progressed or more advanced version of the side plank. Now, obviously, with the side plank, you're going to be doing it on both sides. And the final one we're going to get you to do is the bird dog. So I'm going to get you to roll over onto all fours for me. Okay, so setup position for the bird dog. We want those knees underneath those hips, so just bring your knees a bit more forward for me. Good. And a little bit wider apart. Okay, so knees underneath hips, hands underneath shoulders. That's the setup position from there, all right? Now what Taylor's going to do is just bracing through the core, just a little bit there, keeping that nice and stable, and we're going to extend one arm and opposite leg. Now what we've got to also include, or make sure we're focusing on, is keeping stable up top here, okay? So we want to keep stable through here and all the way down through those hips as well, so that we're only getting the movement coming out of the ball and socket joints rather than anything through the spine itself or the back. Okay, so a good cue for this is feel like you're trying to push the earth away or push the floor away, and that's going to keep these muscles switched on as well. Now, if you want to, you can also do a little bit of lat brace to engage as well, which we'll run through in a second. All right. So the beginner version that we like to do is just to do one limb at a time. So Taylor's going to take a nice deep breath and brace, and just extending one arm and hold for me there. Make a fist. Good. So I want to be nice and strong there. That's why we've got to make it a fist to keep the muscles switched on there, and then coming back in. Good. Catch your breath, reset, go other hand, extending through. Good. And you see how Taylor's not worrying about extending too much straight. We're just going to extend out and back in. Good. And now we're going to go leg. So again, bracing the core and extending one leg backwards. So the key here is we're not trying to lift the leg up. We're trying to push it backwards and back in. Good. So I like to imagine that there's a wall against my foot. I'm trying to drive that wall backwards. So we're not lifting, we're pushing the leg back. Because again, we want all the movement to come from the hip, not the back itself. Okay? So go again there, Taylor. Brace the core and drive the leg back. Good. Just dropping down a touch. That's it there. And back in. Okay? So that's the beginner version that we're looking at just controlling one limb at a time. Now the next or intermediate version is going to be linking two together. So what Taylor's going to do is brace her core. She's going to extend out her right arm and left leg at the same time. Perfect. And making sure it's nice and stable. 2, 3, and back in. Good. Just bring the right leg a little bit forward for me. Good. So nice underneath. And let's go the opposite too. Brace that core. Extending out. 1, 2, 3. And back in. All right, so we're looking at keeping everything nice and stable. With some of our patients, we'll even put a ball or a tennis ball in the back here, and when they're doing it, they're not allowed to let the ball fall over, because this movement is all about resisting rotation, so that's what we're setting up for it. Now, the advanced level of this one is what we like to call drawing shapes. So basically, when your arm and leg extended, and you're going to be drawing shapes, circles, squares, triangles, whatever you prefer, but it's adding a little bit more dynamic movement that you've got to resist against. Okay, so Taylor, we're going to do the same thing there. You're going to brace that core, extend out arm and leg, and hold in that position there for me. And then while you're there, just draw small squares for me. Good. And back in. Okay, and another progress version that you can do for that one as well is what we like to call sweeping. So Taylor's going to extend her arms and legs out and then come back in, not touch them down, and then go back out again, come back in, not touch down, and back out. She's going to do 3 sweeps, keeping it nice and stable. Okay, so Taylor, when you're ready, and back in, good, and back out, keep it stable, back in, good, last one, good, and coming back in. So that's the sweeping version, another more advanced progression as well. Okay, so those are the big 3. As we said, everyone is different and unique, so your variations and your level might depend on your individual capacity and function, whether you're dealing with pain rehabbing or looking more towards moving performance. That'll dictate what sort of level you should go to. But hopefully this gave you a bit of a run through as to the correct technique of how to do them, and really focusing on the control and the technique is important. So we're not trying to just bust out as many reps as we can. We're trying to actually look at engaging both what we like to call the hardware, which is muscle strength, but software, which is how we use that muscle strength and the control behind it as well. So make sure you focus on each rep being perfect and give those big 3 a go.